And what happened is, as I mentioned, it was winter. My back tire of the bus catch on a plaque of ice. It made the car swerve, go to the side, and eventually turn over. So my first reaction was sitting there like this in the car was to laugh.
Hey my lovelies, it's your girl Mel. Welcome back to my channel. We are here with mommy, so now I already know it's another story time with mommy. Story time with mommy. So mommy is continuing her German story time.
Yes, I will. Actually, today I was considering to just give you a few random stories that I cannot really place in a consecutive timeline. So, but they are within the time that we are in now, which is me from about 18, 19 to going up to 20, 21, 22. So certain things did happen throughout those years, of course, like in everybody's life, and nothing earth-shaking or anything, but basically maybe it's fun for you to hear some of those stories. So let me start with, for example, my study time. As I was mentioning, I studied visual communication, which is basically graphic design. And I had to do a lot of artist things like painting, drawing, sculptures, anything really within the art business, and also start with some graphic like lettering and designing, whatever. Some people would come and say, oh, can you design a vase for us, or can you design a letterhead for us for such and such firm, and we do so and so, and then we were supposed to do those things. So that was my study time. And I remember one time it was winter, it was like January, which was like the end of semester basically, and we had some exam that day. So I remember we had an old VW bus at the time, and we left home. And when I say we, it's Thierry and me, and I carried Thierry to his workplace. Remember, he was a truck driver at the time, and the workplace was not really on the way, but I just left him there, and then I went on to go to my school and do the exam. And it was a full road early in the morning. And what happened is, as I mentioned, it was winter. My back tire of the bus catch on a plaque of ice that was on the road, which, I mean, you had some far and few between them, so I didn't really see it at that point in time, but it made the car swerve, go to the side, and eventually turn over to the side. So, and I was so lucky, at that time there was no traffic. I did not reach into any oncoming traffic or anything. I just went to the side and turned over. So my first reaction was sitting there like this in the car was to laugh. Because I was like, whoa, and looked around myself and I said, what is this? And I'm alive. And actually the interesting part was we had to bring this car to be destroyed anyhow, because it didn't have any fitness anymore, it didn't have anything anymore. So basically that it was on the last leg of us driving it anyhow. So I was so relieved that nothing happened, and that car was not really a huge loss neither, that I started to laugh. So then I climbed out of the car. Some people were standing around by that time. Oh my God, are you okay? Is everything fine? And I said, yeah, I'm okay, never mind. And
Never mind.
I wasn't far from Thierry's workplace at the time, so I actually walked back, and he was still there, luckily, and I told him the story. And then he came and took care basically of the car because I said, sorry, I have to reach school. You know? So I reached schools, I don't even know what I did. I think I even took a taxi or something, although we didn't have money at the time. Reach school and then meet my friends there and start to tell them the story. And they look at me and say, what? And you're coming here and you want to do your exam? And I said, yeah. I need that exam, so I have to do it. So they say, whoa, you are something else. Just after an accident like that, you come and want to do your exam. And anyhow, I did. I set it, and I don't remember, but I didn't flunk it. I know that much. Because I didn't flunk any of my exams, and it was probably not super good, but it was good enough. So that was the one story. And then, pretty much in the beginning of the studies, we got the assignment to do something about ourselves, like present ourselves in a story, in drawings, in a painting, in anything artistic. Mm-hmm. Now, I realized that everybody was going to start draw them story, you know, make a little booklet and have it like that. And for me, it was like, that's boring. You know, I don't want to do that. So at that point in time, we did live already in the little farmhouse I was telling you about, where my friend is still living in. Cool, tail out of my face. And so I decided to rebuild this farmhouse, like almost like a dolly house, and put in all the people, because at that point in time I think we were living in there with 6 adults, and we had our sheep, our chicken, our rabbits, cats and dogs. Mm-hmm. So ducks and geese and whatever, we had a lot of animals. So I decided to kind of build that, not from wood or anything, but I built it from carton boxes. But I did take the pain to measure out the entire house. I mean, wall to wall, window, doors, everything. And I put it in, how you call mashtub, like in the right scale. I sat down and calculated that measurement in the right scale for my little house. The house would have been like about this big, all in all. Can you imagine the max alone for that, you know?
But why?
I wanted to be as precise as possible, you know? And imagine now, it was not only a house, you know, it was a house made from these wooden frames with the fillings in there. And I've measured out every single one of those wooden frames and calculated it.
That's a lot.
Seriously, it was a lot. But somehow I felt compelled to do so. And then actually when I submitted it, I told the teacher, them, I said, this is actually the right measurement, only downscaled. So, took me a good while to do that and build it, and then I had to go and find little figurines that would represent us and the animals. So I got these little plastic ones that you can use, like when you have a train line, like these little toy trains and stuff. And for those things at that time was a big thing in Germany. A lot of people used to have those little trains, and they had houses for that and people for that as well. So I went and then I found actually one figurine with long dark hair. That would be me, and I could find actually figurines pretty much resembling the people we had in the house at that time. I found the VW bus as well. That like what we had. No, 2 people had VW buses in our house at that time. I found all the animals. Like, I don't know how many chicken we did have at the time and ducks, but I found all of that.
So did you keep the accurate numbers for that too?
Oh, of course. Every chicken was counted. No, seriously. Every chicken was counted. Well, I knew we didn't have tons of them, you know. We had a fair amount, but not that much. So I bought all that, and then I built up this little house, put it on our platform with actually our garden as a scale as well. And put in all the animals on it and all the people outside of the house. The house was not really playable in the sense. I mean, you could push in something and take it back out, like, but it was not like I didn't do the rooms. I just made the outside construction. So the day come when we were supposed to submit our thing now, and I was the only one that did the project in that way. And the teachers looked at it and said, well, that is interesting, that is different. And asked me why I did it. And I explained to them, I said, everybody's doing these little booklets and explain, oh, I like to read, I like to dance. Well, this is my life. We live here with all these people, with all these animals, and that is basically my life. So that is the story I have to tell. And they found it pretty interesting, and I got a good note for that. I did get a good.
Did you get extra marks for being precise?
No. No, they didn't care. They didn't
Exactly.
even. But I know, but for some reason, for me, it was important. And I told them, actually, really, it's exactly downscaled. Which partly it was interesting for them because, you see, architect is part of the study field as well. So basically, I fulfilled another subject there.
For free.
Downscaling something that is already there.
For free.
For free. Well, it's my house, so, and nobody had interest in that. But, well, my father actually was an architect, as I mentioned already, so maybe I had it a little bit in my blood. So, yeah, that's why I decided to do it that way. And I got, like I said, I got a pretty good grade for it. And then, of course, studying art and stuff, we guys were all a little bit crazy. So you can imagine, when we had parties in that school, like carnival, we used to have carnival there. I mean, those parties were the blast. You know, because the whole school was involved. Everybody got crazy. Now, all these artistic people, we would have costumes that were so crazy sometimes. Like, I remember my good friend Christina, what she did, she put on rollerblades and got a huge carton box that she could fit in. She could fit in completely. Only her feet might stuck out. And then she put 2 eye holes in there, and she was going as a carton box. And rolling through the entire building with all the people there. And when she wanted to be stationary, she just bent down a bit so the carton box would sit on the ground and you wouldn't even know that there was a person in there.
So were her arms outside too?
No, everything was in the box.
Everything was
in the box.
So even if she was to fall, she would actually just
She
fall.
would fall, trust me. I mean, she would dong. No, nothing outside. When she stopped and set down the box with herself in it, you would not know there was a person in there unless you would directly see those 2 little eye holes, and they weren't big neither. You know, so we were laughing so hard when we saw her. You know, it was so, and she was going through the entire building the whole evening, like sliding through, and everybody was like, "What?" You know. So, and you can imagine we were all very inventive with our costumes. I just was a witch, but I put the things together, and I was the ugliest witch you can imagine.
To this day, that's her type of costume. She always becomes a witch for Halloween.
Yeah, because at least I can make myself real ugly, you know. Something here and a big nose and black lips, and so I like that. Yeah. Up to now, she's right.
She did it.
One time a witch, always a witch.
Didn't you do it?
For Halloween at your shop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what? Last? No.
No, it was 3 years ago.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. The last time she did Halloween in the States with you, she was a witch as well.
Yeah. Oh, you can show them. I have the picture.
Okay.
So that is those stories with my school. Then otherwise I was like studying normally. We did going there. It's a time consuming intensive study though, because I mean it's not like you can miss things also. You have to be there. You have to be present. You have a lot of assignment, and so it was interesting. It was time consuming and confusing, and it was fun. I mean, I loved it. So basically, what happened now, throughout that time, the school before and this school now, we were like a little group of of women meeting, and we became good friends, and actually we are friends up to this day. And we are talking like almost 50 years now. We are still thick friends. So I really appreciate that. That was a wonderful time. Is still with them today. Actually, one of them is living in the same farmhouse that I'm talking about up to this day. She was part of our community at one point in time, and then they took over when I left. So those are really long-term relationships, you can say. And with the same lady that still is in the house, one spring, I think it was March, we decided she wanted to go to Sweden because she had friends in Sweden, and she, at that point in time, she had a boyfriend in Sweden, and she wanted to go visit him. And so I decided, oh, I'm going with her. Why not? You know, because she didn't really want to go alone. I was asking around if somebody wanted to join, and I decided, yeah, Sweden. I've never been in Sweden, so let me look. So we went up there. Now, going to Sweden, you have to drive in Germany on the Autobahn, going a bit through Denmark, and then you have to take a ferry to reach over to Sweden, because there's a lot of sea in between, and the ferry does not go fast neither. I mean, it takes you about 14 hours to reach. Yeah, it's quite a long trip. Or it was at that time. Maybe nowadays the ferries are faster, but at that point in time, so you would go on the ferry with your car. You could book a cabin, or you could just stay where you are. But of course, March was very cold still. It was practically winter still. So what we did, we went inside and just, we were going, one trip, the trip going was in the daytime. So we would just spend the day there and have a coffee here and there or something, and just wait out the time until we reached. And then we drove off the ferry, and in Sweden it was deep winter still. Snow everywhere. When we left in Germany, there was cold but no winter. When we reached over there, real winter. Sweden is beautiful. It's a very beautiful country. And the place we went to was Arvika. Arvika is further up and at a lake. So it is not, we did not go to any big town or any big place. It was really countryside. And Margaret had friends there, so we could stay with the friends, and those friends did have a restaurant at the lake. So at one point in time when we were there, they asked us if we could help out because there was a wedding. They had a wedding reception and they needed some help. And we said, of course. I couldn't speak a word of Swedish, Margaret neither. But we said, well, we will get by. I know nothing. So when we reached there, then I started to peel potatoes. I don't know how many potatoes I peeled. I mean, a whole heap. And the others did whatever they had to do in order to set up the wedding. And the wedding people came and sat down, and we would serve the food and stuff. And anytime somebody asked me something, I was like, hey, sorry, don't speak Swedish. But Swedish people speak English a lot of time too, so that was really a problem. And everything went fabulously. They were happy, we were happy, you know, we had fun. So this wedding reception was over, everybody left, and we saw some bottles of champagne standing there in the setting. You know, and we were like, yes. So we asked the people, them, of course, our friends, if we could have a bottle, and they say, yeah, mom, take it, no problem. So we took it, opened it, threw out in a glass, you know, and we tasted it. It was like, what the heck is that? It was awful. It was simply awful. And then we looked good at the bottle. It was champagne without alcohol. And we were like, what? Really? Champagne without alcohol? What the heck? Well, what happened at that time in Sweden, I think it's even up to this day to a degree, the Swedish government tried to prohibit people from drinking too much because Sweden has a very long winter. Basically, half of the year in Sweden is darkness. When I say darkness, I mean darkness. You do not even have daylight. You have like this twilight, and that's the most daylight you get for months on time. I mean, it's really, really rough. Whereas in summer, you don't have night. You have sunshine throughout for 24 hours, right through. There is no night whatsoever. So that's very, very extreme. And a lot of people in Sweden had this tendency to drink a lot of alcohol. It was a huge problem in Sweden at the time. So the government tried to get it under control by first of all making alcohol completely expensive. I mean, if you would buy like a bottle of wine in Germany, in Sweden you would have to pay 5 times that for the same bottle. Same with any alcohol. If it was vodka, whiskey, rum, you name it, the prices were exorbitant, right? So that was the reason why a lot of people refrained, even at a wedding, as you can see, to buy champagne, because champagne looked good. It belonged to a wedding without alcohol, because it just simply could not afford the real prices. And maybe some of them were anti-alcoholic anyhow.
So was it because people were depressed, or what was the
I think
alcohol?
The winter would always take its toll on a lot of people. Because, I mean, imagine now, you know our bodies are made to receive sunlight, to receive daylight, you know, and in other countries, even in Germany, throughout the winter time, more people get depressed because our nights are pretty long then too in Germany. So there are definitely more depressed people than in countries that have basically always sunshine and more daylight, you know. So Sweden, of course, I think they had a huge number of suicides every year throughout the winter time.
Okay.
But the interesting part was, honestly, I have never seen as many drunk people in my life than in Sweden. Because we used to go in the town, little town Arica, early in the morning, you know, because to do shopping for the restaurant and stuff. And when we went there, you know, the amount of people you see in the road, like at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, stone stiff drunk. And I was always thinking, but how can they even afford the alcohol? What I figure is at that point in time, a lot of people made their own alcohol.
Yeah.
And trust me, I mean,
And the one you
early
make
in the morning, where in Germany I was not used to this sight. Yes, you always have your few little bums here and there, and that will even start early in the morning, but not to that extent, not in that amount.
And the alcohol you make for yourself is always stronger than
Very
anything
potent.
else.
Very. And you know, you have to be careful too, right? Because if you do it wrong and you drink that, you can get blind. Because that is, well, we in Jamaica, we have John Crawbati here, which is the self-made one, and I have tasted some, and I have to say, I was surprised, you know, I got one time. It was so mild. Although it was very potent, it was really, really mild in taste and very nice. I loved it. And I think they have a way where they can determine if it's dangerous or not, you know, some form of measurement or something where they can say, okay, this one might be dangerous or this one is good. So of course that was a good one. But I really enjoyed it, to be honest. Not, but I had one other one that was so coarse. I mean, it really, really tasted raw, you know, very strong and very raw. You could barely drink it. I mean, you had to chase it with a lot of something just to get it down. But this other one was excellent. You could just drink it like that. So it all depends who does it, how they do it, the knowledge they have and so. But I guess in Sweden at that point in time, a lot of people did that, yeah. So we spent I think we weren't there that long, a week or so. And then we were on our way back, and snow was still there, and the roads were mostly dry, when the same thing that happened to me with my car happened to Margaret. She was driving at the time. Luckily, all it happened, we turned around once on the road completely, Didn't go in any ditch, didn't turn over, nothing happened. But she was like, oh my god, oh my god. I said, okay, Margaret, sit down, I'm going to continue drive, you know, but she was incapable of driving at that point in time. So we went on the ferry, and we got a late afternoon ferry, which meant we had to be on it overnight. And again, we couldn't afford a cabin or nothing, so we just said, oh, well, we go spend the night somehow. And as it turned out, they had a discotheque there. So by about 8 o'clock in the evening, the music started to blast. And of course, we are young and yeah, party, you know, and we went there and we actually spent the entire night in that disco. They were playing music because there were quite a few people and young people on that ferry. And it turned out that we had a blast. We had a party there. If nobody wanted, even the people who had a cabin, they didn't even want to go sleep, you know, because for them it was like, Nossa, this is party time, you know, let's do it. And we were there until at least 4 or 5 in the morning. It was almost daylight. We didn't drink though, because same thing, ferry to Sweden, from Sweden, no alcohol or too expensive. But we just had so much fun that we didn't want to sleep. And at that trip or at that disco, we met this young Swedish guy. I don't remember his name. Sorry, forgive me. It's like a lot of years ago. But what happened to him? He was from under his eyes down here to here, severely burned. I mean, he had nothing but scar tissue here, and his mouth was distorted, his nose was distorted, and pure scar tissue. Had beautiful long blonde hair. You could see if he had didn't happen to him, he would be a beautiful man, right? But well, so of course we asked what happened to him. He said, well, when he was 2 years old, actually his mother had a candle on the table, and he threw it down, and something catch fire and catch him in the face. So he did have that from he was 2 years old. It looked, just to look at him, looked for me painful, because it was all very, you know, the scar tissue was very tight, and I asked him, does it hurt? And he said, no, not anymore. So we spent most of the evening with him and danced with him, and I mean, we had a good time. And then when we reached where we were, Kiel, I think, was it Kiel or somewhere in Denmark? I don't remember. We said goodbye. We told him where we live, and we told him about our circumstances and stuff. And as it turned out, about 2 weeks later, somebody knocked at our door, and who was it? It was him. He came to visit. So he spent 1-2 days with us, and it was very interesting and nice. And you see, that is what I liked about those times. It was less formal, you know, like our group of people, we could just pop in each other's house. You didn't need an appointment, or when do you want to come for dinner, or do you want to drink a coffee sometime, and when would it be convenient? Like today, it's almost impossible to do so with anybody anymore. But then time, you know, I used to come home, and the house I was living in, we couldn't even lock it. We didn't have a lock on the door. It was open. And I used to come home sometimes, walk in my kitchen, we see people sitting in my kitchen at my table. One time, people that I didn't even know, never met in my life. And they said, oh, sorry that we did come in, but the door was open, it was cold outside. So, and I said, all right, no problem. And who are you, by the way? And they said, oh yeah, it's Jimmy sent us from, we're French people. Jimmy sent us from Paris. You know, and he said we could probably catch you. No, well, them time we didn't have a cellular phone or nothing, and then calling and stuff.
But how did they find the house, or knew exactly that that is the house?
He explained to them, and they found it somewhat. I don't know, and the house wasn't really that easy to find either. I don't know how. By the way, I never asked them how they found it.
That's why I'm saying, for somebody who has never been there, how do you find a house like that?
But they did, obviously. And the interesting part too is, like, with all these people and everybody knew our house was open. Nobody ever attempted to rob us or break in or take anything. And most of the time that house was empty the entire day because everybody was going either studying or working or whatever. So people always knew to, oh, I can walk in there and take out whatever I want. And it's not like we had any big things there. But I mean, there was still this 1 or 2 TVs and stereo, and because one of our people, he was a very big music fan, which will come important too one day. And he had a very good stereo in his room, you know. I mean, that alone would have been worth it to thieve. Nobody ever attempted anything like that in all the years. So that was really fantastic. Yeah, that was my Sweden trip. And then one more trip that is in my recollection is one to France, just to show you how the war still did affect people by that time. And we are talking in the 70s now, like early 70s to mid 70s. Thierry and me went to France, and we were in the Provence, and it's wonderful there in summer. You have huge fields with lavender. I mean, you pass there, you drive past, nothing but purple. We were there at the time when it was blooming. And can you imagine the smell? I mean, we all know how lavender smells. Now you have fields of it around you. Natural lavender smell in the air, strong. So I was like, from that day I loved lavender. I have my little oil diffuser here, and I always put in lavender because I just love the smell. And the time of the year we went there too, it was time for apricot. You know apricots, like peach, but small.
Apricots.
Apricots, like the small peachy kind. Now those have a smell as well. Those two smells mingle now. Wow. Melody, if anybody make a perfume like that, me go wear it. It was wonderful. Anyhow, as we always traveled and meet people, we met these people. They had a lavender farm and lived in a farmhouse, so they invited us to have dinner with them, and so we did. And we're sitting by the table, and mind you, at that time I was speaking French fluently with a Swiss accent, because Thierry was from Switzerland and I learned my French from him, so I would copy his like intonation and whatever. And well, so everybody thought I was Swiss. And then we were sitting at the table in the evening and telling some stories, and then I started telling a story even about Germany, and they looked at me and said, "Wait, where you come from?" And I said, "I'm German." Whoa! Their faces fell boom. Like they got this finster face suddenly. They looked at me like I was the enemy, you know, and I was like, what's going on here? Because the whole time before everything was alright. We were laughing, talking, this and that, and they were like, "Boom!" So Thierry looked at them and said, what is wrong? And they said, "Oh, she's Bosch." Bosch is a bad word for German, right? She's Bosch, and you guys made war, and you made us people suffer here, and they were really getting aggressive towards me. And then I said, whoa, look here. I was born 10 years after the Second World War was finished, right? I have nothing whatsoever to do with this whole story. Yes, my people did wrong, my people did what they did, but me personally, I have nothing to do with it. I don't believe in it, and I do not like what was going on, and if you want, I can even apologize for my people, but don't take it out on me, because I'm innocent here. So they kind of looked at it, and then after a while they kind of come back to normal, you know. They listened to my words and they looked at me, but it was not as cool as it was before. So little after that we left and said our goodbyes, and that was it. But for me, it was astonishing because at that time I was about 20, so we are talking 30 years after the war was finished. To get those strong reactions in that country still towards Germans, you know.
Were those people the same age as you guys?
No, they were older.
Oh, they were older.
Yeah, they were
So
older. Well,
yeah,
there was like I think they basically lived the war still,
okay.
to a degree, not as adults maybe,
Yeah.
but as young people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was part of the reason for sure. But boy, they made me feel so uncomfortable, Sandine. I was like so amazed that after all these years, the reaction would be still that strongly against a member of a people, you know? Not just because I had a German passport and was German, suddenly I was the enemy, you know? But that showed me as well how dangerous it is to judge people just for their background, because I was the furthest ever to even be against Jews or anything, you know, because for me it's like everybody is everybody, every religion has their own right, you know, which actually I can just add another situation where we were at home in Bielefeld and friends of ours visited, which the guy is, his parents, his mother was German, his father American, but they lived in France. Oh. So this guy was 3 languages fluent, right? And he didn't really know where he belonged, to be honest. And he came to visit with his French girlfriend, who turned out that she was a Jew. And she came in our house, and we were living in community at the time. And she came in and she was so nervous. First time she ever came to Germany, first stop in Germany, right? So she came in and she was like completely nervous, and we kind of, well, maybe she is like that because we didn't know her, you know, so maybe it's just her type or something. But then after, well, Bert was his name, come and ask him what happened to your girlfriend, and he said, oh yeah, she is a Jew and she feel away with to be in Germany and with Germans. And I said, oh, okay. And then, actually, I was always somebody to open my mouth. So I went to her and I said, Kathi, I just heard that you seem to have a little problem here with us as Germans and stuff. And then I told her the same story. I said, look here, I have nothing, or all of us here, we are young. We have nothing to do with that part of the story. And you are so welcome here. And please stop to feel away if you can. And basically that relaxed her to a degree, and they spent a few days with us actually, and she became more and more normal, you know. And as it turned out, we stayed friends over the years and even had a trip together one time, which will be another mom's story time. So that's it for today, guys. I hope it was interesting enough for you.
Yes, guys, so mommy and her little adventures, you know, she had a lot of experiences before she even got to Jamaica. So yeah, this is it for today's story time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, guys, and we will see you in our next video. Bye.